everyone, it's Shel from Paper Rock Studio, and today I'm sharing with you my art journal page for the Mission Inspiration Challenge on Facebook. This is Mike Deacon's group on Facebook, but the guest mission controller this month was Peg Robinson, so I was really excited to do her challenge. Right now I've prepared my page in my spiral journal, and I'm opening up India inks. I really like this tray because I can put the bottles in the little holders and they won't tip over. So that's why I was showing you that. And I was getting ready to do the first step, but then I realized I needed to gesso my page first because I didn't want any of the mess I was going to make to seep through to other pages in the book. That's also why I taped all the way around the edge and made it real, tucked things in between and stuff so that I wouldn't make a huge mess on the rest of the book. So the first step that was in the challenge was to create a background with alcohol, that's also called surgical spirits, and ink. I decided to use my Dr. P.H. Martin's India inks for my ink, and the alcohol I'm using is 91% isopropyl alcohol, which you can buy at the drugstore. I've got a plastic pipette, and I'm applying the colors, starting with the darkest one at the bottom and then moving up the page, dripping them onto the page, and then using a quite wet brush to kind of swoosh them around, and then I'm dripping the alcohol on there. And what that does is the alcohol pushes the fluidity, the water basically, away and creates these interesting patterns. So that's one of the reasons I need to gesso the page first, was because I needed it to be sealed so that the colors wouldn't soak into the paper. This is a 140-pound watercolor paper in this book. Of course, I'll link the book. I'm actually thinking this might be my favorite journal now. I don't know. I sometimes want to work on flat pages. Sometimes I'm okay with the spiral. Sometimes I'm working in other books. I don't know. I'm not sure which ones are my favorite. So I made my background, and then this is all really wet, and I needed to give it a long dry. Some people would say that you shouldn't dry it because I put 91% isopropyl alcohol on there, which could be flammable, but I never have a problem with it, so not too worried about that. Step 2, paint without a brush. I decided to just kind of mute some of the really strong patterns in my background and kind of give everything a more matte finish by using my 2-inch brayer, which is not a brush, and some buff titanium paint from PBO Studio Acrylic, kind of a heavy body acrylic paint. So that was step 2. Gave that thing another dry. Step 3, use a household item. I was like, what do I have that's a household item? Oh yes, this spatula. This is a kitchen spatula, a Betty Crocker brand. And I decided to use it to kind of paint with some, kind of like a palette knife, sort of like a palette knife painting. And I'm using the Dylusions paints, and in this challenge there is also a color challenge. The colors were potting soil, which is a brown, aquamarine, which is a turquoise, and vermilion, which is kind of a deep red. So the colors I picked from Dylusions are coffee bean, pomegranate seed, and vibrant turquoise, which I thought lined up with the color palette pretty well. So once again, this is probably a familiar theme that you might see me do on journal pages. I really enjoy nature. I'm very inspired by nature. I like mountains. I like to hike and to go out, and see the nature. I like animals. All that type of stuff is really something that I enjoy. So it kind of tends to be something that I use in my journal as themes pretty often. I'm more looking outward rather than inward. A lot of people's journals are very focused on their feelings and their turmoil and trying to get these things out. I'm really a lot more outward focused, thinking about what's out there in the world, although I don't go out there that much, but I should go out there more. I just kind of tend to want to stay hiding in my house quite a bit doing art. So the second household item that I used is an empty yogurt container to make a circle. But as you can see, I've made kind of a abstract painterly mountain scene with a stream and a sunshine. Stuff that I like, stuff that I enjoy. The next step was to create a resist with a gel medium and a stencil. I have some new stencils I got at Tuesday Morning, which is kind of a discontinued wholesaler type of a place here in the United States. And these two stencils I'm going to use are from the Crafter's Workshop. I did find a place where you can purchase them, not on Amazon. I have all the links to everything that I used in the description box below. Most of that goes to Amazon, and when you use those links to Amazon anyway, I get a few cents when you buy something, even if it's not what I put on there. Like you find something else you'd rather buy in the same session, I still get a little bit of money. So it helps me buy art supplies. So I always appreciate when you use my Amazon links. I know they're not, they're only the United States ones, they're not international ones. I'm trying to figure out how to do that because I know there's an Amazon UK and stuff like that, but I haven't figured it out yet. So I've got two different stencils and I'm applying some, what's that stuff called? Collage Podge glossy medium. This is usually what you use for sticking on stuff with decoupage, and it's the glossy one because I think the glossy resists stuff a lot better. The step number 5 was to spray, drop, or blow on ink. This is where the resist comes in because I'm going to use a water-soluble product, which is the Tattered Angels Glimmer Mist. Spray over those areas where I put the glossy medium on, and the glossy medium resists the water-based spray. So I'm doing the spray version using some orange called It's Orange, and then some reddish color called Lobster, and some brownish color called Craft, and the Tattered Angels Glimmer Mists. They also have mica in them, so it adds a little bit of sheen. And of course, the areas that I've added the gloss medium through the stencil is resisting that ink. So once that's all dry, moving on to the next step, but then I decided that I really wanted a little bit more I wanted to add a little bit of like snow or frost on my mountains and add a little bit more definition to my painting. It was looking a little bit too abstract for me. Also, the brown was really showing through on my turquoise stream, and I wanted to add something to fix that up a little bit. So I'm using white gesso and a brush to do this. The thing about pretty much almost any ink spray is that when you try to put something over the top, it soaks through into it. So when I'm adding the gesso, the white is muted by it interacting with the sprays that are on there and the spray coming through the white. So it's not super bright white, which is fine. I didn't want it to be super bright white. I just wanted to add a little bit more interest and definition to my scene. So that's what I use the white gesso for. Then I moved on to the next step, which is to add a geometric shape or two. I have this Stampin' Up! Stamp set called Fun with Shapes, and it's got all different geometric shapes in it, so I thought that would be a good choice. And I know that Peg picked her colors from the archival inks, so I got out my Potting Soil archival ink and my Vermilion archival ink, and I'm adding some rectangles which are supposed to kind of look like cactuses or trees standing on the mountains. They kind of end up fading into the background quite a bit, but I was fine with that too. I didn't mind. So I'm just using the very last. This stamp has multiple rectangles on it, but I'm just using the very last one. Same thing with the vermilion ink and the triangle. I'm just using the last one on the row, not using the whole stamp. Kind of separating out the shape. Not by doing anything fancy, just by only inking that up on the edge. So next is to use some metallic shimmer or glitter. So I decided to get out some Inca Gold, which is a metallic wax, and I'm applying it with my finger, and I'm just allowing my finger to drag over the top of where that gloss medium is, where it's bumpy, trying to highlight the texture that I got using those stencils because it was kind of not showing up that much. So I just wanted to highlight it. I like the texture that I added. I wanted it to show a little bit more. So that's what I use the metallic wax for. And once I had it applied on there, I buffed it with a soft paper towel to try to get it to shimmer and shine a little bit more. That sometimes works. And then I'm taking off my tape because I figured the last step I didn't need it on there anymore, and I wanted to see that it kind of has a white outline around it. And then I thought, I really do want to define these mountain shapes a little bit more. They're still not defined enough for me because, you know, I really like an illustratory look rather than a paintery look. That seems to be my obsession. So I just use a black Stabilo All pencil and a water barrel brush. That's a paintbrush that has water in it. Stabilo All is a highly water reactive pencil, so I'm just kind of blending it using this water barrel brush. Sometimes just called a water brush, sometimes called a water tank brush. It's just, it has water in the handle and you squeeze it and allow the flow to come out through the bristles. So it's a handy thing to do so you don't have to dip your brush constantly in water. So once that's all added and blended, I feel like it has a little bit more shadow to it, a little bit more shape, and you can really start to see the scene coming to life, in my opinion. So the last step, step number 8, is to add an element from nature. I found these little silhouettes and downloaded them from graphicstock.com, and there's a couple different elk and a mountain goat, and those all are things from nature and things that you would find in the mountains. So I'm just attaching them using that same gloss. What's it called again? Collage Podge. There's so many. What's it called again? Collage Podge. There's so many different names for these mediums. I get confused. Just use that same one and a brush to attach those. Why didn't I fussy cut them out? For one, they were too small, and I didn't feel like doing that. For another, I kind of just liked the abstracted shapes that they were in, and I thought that they made it stand out from the background more so you could really see them. If I'd cut them out, I think the black would have just faded into all the different color and black that I already had on there. I like the way those look better. So there was some different words: villain, vagabond, venture, valor, vision on this challenge, and I decided to use the word venture. Venture out into the unknown. Go see the nature. Go hike in the mountains and see things that not very many people see. That was kind of my idea with the word venture. So then I just add some detailing with my white Posca pen, some splatters, some directional splatters, some highlights around the letters, things like that, because I like splatters. I think they really add something, especially to kind of interestingly abstracted piece like this. Added MI September 17, which tells me that this is mission inspiration. Then I thought that I needed to add a border or some shadow around those white shapes, so I used the Stabilo All pencil again. If you've enjoyed this video, please remember to give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment so that I know that you were here, subscribe if you haven't already, turn on your notifications if you really want notifications, and of course share if you want to. You can pin this on Pinterest or pin it to Facebook, add it to Facebook or whatever. So that's it for me. Thanks. Bye-bye.